Spider-Man is a happy-go-lucky kind of superhero, and he's always going through it in his life in one shape or another, whether it be JJ always slandering Spider-Man's name and turning New York against him entirely, maybe Spider-Man's girlfriend leaves him for a guy named Paul for no reason, or maybe he gets evicted and becomes homeless. But somehow through it all, Spider-Man always manages to find a way to shine through each and every hardship, always moving forward in the end. But what happens when you take a character like Spider-Man, full of hope and adversity, and you crush everything he holds dear in one fell swoop? Well, you get the story called Spider-Man Back in Black, where the Peter we all know and love is gone and instead replaced with a bloodlusted Spider-Man out for revenge. Because in this story, after Peter revealed his identity to the public, everyone wanted a piece of him. And one villain out of this whole lot, I'd say damaged Peter more than Green Goblin ever did. As a hired gun would try to kill Peter Parker, but would accidentally shoot Aunt May instead. In Aunt May bleeding out and needing help immediately, Peter would throw a car at the shooter and try to web swing to the nearest hospital with Aunt May bleeding out on his side. And once Aunt May was brought to the hospital, Peter would give her as much of his blood as possible until she was stable enough for him to head out. As Peter would go back to the position the shooter was at, and he would web up an officer in his way. Peter would then search every crevice of the building and then find a rifle scope. He would then trace this rifle scope to a gun running warehouse, and upon entering, he would be more ferocious than ever, throwing out the jokes, the quips. He was just going in raw, snapping bones like dry wood, not even wearing the costume. All he cared about was the shooter's name. Meanwhile, in the hospital, Aunt May wasn't getting any better. Hours later, a vengeful Peter would swing to a building he never thought he'd swing to ever again. Because on this building lied a suit that he never wanted to wear ever again because it meant a dark period in his life. The black suit. And upon wearing it, a new persona took over, and he vowed vengeance for his aunt. As Peter would interrogate criminal after criminal until he finally found out the shooter's name and where he'd be. So Peter would set a stakeout at Grand Central Station, looking through the crowd almost as if he was a hunter until he finally spotted his prey. With Peter pouncing on the shooter almost instantly, with the shooter not even being able to get a shot off, saying that he was a dead man from the start, breaking the shooter's arm with almost no remorse, even demanding the shooter to pick up the gun with his other arm so he'd have an excuse to break that one too. Telling the shooter it's not so easy, is it? Shooting an old woman from a window across the street? It's not easy when they fight back, is it? As Peter slams his head against a wall. And through a series of interrogation, Peter finally gets what he's looking for. As Peter calls the Kingpin with pure anger in his heart, as Kingpin asks, "What can I do for you?" With Peter saying back, "You can do just one thing. You can die." Peter would then later say his goodbyes to Aunt May and Mary Jane before taking his vengeance. And then a suit-up montage is shown with Spider-Man putting on his black suit and Kingpin putting on his uniform to get ready for the battle in the prison, as Peter slowly slips past the security, with every prisoner rallying up to see the main event as a crash is heard from the ceiling, and Spider-Man landing in front of Kingpin saying to him that this is the end of the road. You and me, right now. Kingpin then tries to spark some conversation by saying he wished this confrontation could have been somewhere a bit more regal, but the prison will do. But Spidey remains quiet, like a grim reaper. So Kingpin tries to break his silence by calling him a chump who was hated by all of New York, a chump that lets his family sleep in a 2-bit motel, a chump with a code, and a chump who lets his aunt get shot, saying that sometimes to make an omelet, you gotta break a few old ladies. As Kingpin, in not so much as an attosecond, gets pummeled by Spider-Man. Stumbling to his feet, Kingpin looks at Spider-Man in utter disbelief, with Kingpin remarking that even Spider-Man's usual carefree, humorous demeanor is gone, replaced with a mind of revenge. But since he's made a mockery of everyone he's ever cared for and victimized the women he swore to protect, what else is there than humor? And again, Kingpin gets met with a speed blitz of attacks Kingpin could barely take, with Kingpin even noticing that Spider-Man isn't holding back anymore. So Kingpin yells at Spider-Man to say something, anything, because after all, he said he was gonna kill him. So Spider-Man says he's not here to kill Kingpin, taking off his mask, but Peter Parker is, running towards Kingpin, landing a powerful southpaw on Kingpin as the crowd roars around them. But to him, Peter doesn't hear the crowd. There's no jokes, there's no cute remarks, no acrobatics, no webbing, no tricks. Peter just thinks of one thing: beating this man to an inch of his life. But he's not even a man. No, he's a target, throwing him around like a sack of potatoes. As Peter tells Kingpin that in all of his money and all of his cruelty, he forgot that he has no actual power, because at the end of the day, he can't lift up a train, he can't stick to walls, and he can't turn into a ball of flame. At the end of the day, he's just a balloon, and Peter is the needle. Kingpin then tries to jump onto Peter, but Peter easily takes the Kingpin down. And as Kingpin wipes the blood from his mouth, saying that he'll kill Peter, Peter yells at Kingpin to get up again. But Kingpin can't. His whole body is broken. So Peter picks up Kingpin by his skin instead, slapping him front hand and backhand over and over in front of all of the prisoners, until he finally stops and tells Kingpin how this is all going to happen now. He's going to pour a stream of web fluid down his throat, filling his esophagus and his lungs completely with webbing, and he's going to die from the lack of oxygen, and it only takes 3 seconds. So Peter counts down to 3, as Kingpin can do nothing but count down with him. But instead of Peter killing him right when it gets to 3, right then and there, Peter decides he wants to mess with Kingpin and kill Kingpin another day. Because Peter's done something far worse than kill him. He's beaten him. And everyone in the prison watched it happen, and now they'll tell their friends, and their friends will tell theirs, and so on and so on. And what happens next is pretty simple. The moment Aunt May dies, Peter will come back and finish what he started, and Kingpin knows he can't fight him, so he'll just have to count down again to 3 alongside him on that day. And then he'll be dead. With Peter directing this message to every other criminal in the crowd included, that if any of them so much as glance at his family, they will die painfully and slowly, as he tells Kingpin to pray that his aunt makes it. Otherwise, he'll be back to finish the job, swinging off. And Kingpin, struggling to bring himself to his cell with his broken and beaten body, every prisoner sees Kingpin for the weak man he really is, ending the story. Now, I'm a huge fan of this story, and I've always loved it most of all because it shows just how brutal Spider-Man can be when he has literally lost everything and just stops holding back. It goes crazy, I swear. And my favorite panel from this story is when Spider-Man says he's not going to kill him, and then he takes off the mask, and he says that Peter Parker will. It just has such an impact to me. And I really quickly just wanted to take a moment to thank you guys for 300,000 subscribers. That is fucking insane. And I just want to say that we did it. We did it. Because I can't just come up here and be like, yeah, it was all me. Because it was you guys too. You guys made it a thing. And I kind of wanted to do this like 300K special for this video in particular for Spider-Man Back in Black. Because this was the same short that got me somewhat viral. Only difference was back like I think a year ago when I posted it, I only talked about it for a minute and it was very brief and there wasn't a lot of context. So I kind of wanted to take the video that made me viral in the first place and remaster it, remake it, you know, and give you a lot more context and know exactly what happens in the story. But anyways, thank you again for 300,000. It has done so many things for me. You have no idea. And yeah, I love you guys for it. So anyways, I'll catch y'all on the flip side. See ya.